If you're happy when you post and sad if you don't get enough likes, and then happy when you get enough likes, and then sad when you're not posting, stop f***ing posting. All right, so we're rolling, right?
That's what they said 3 times.
I'm just making
Good
sure.
way to start a show.
I've been yelled at a couple times already, so I'm not trying to get in more trouble.
Wow.
But as we've already talked with her and she's here.
Victim mentality. Let's put that.
I don't have the victim mentality. Okay. Why does everything happen to me? I'm not saying woe is me, but woe is me. So Amana, thank you for being here. We're calling this the No Followers podcast. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
You are a entrepreneur yourself. You're a business owner. You sell products.
Yes.
You are soon to be masters in, hit me with it one more time, psychology.
Psychology of mental health and well-being.
And you are a stage performer, actress.
Yeah. Musical
dancer,
theatre performer.
Singer, all the above. And you're from the UK.
I am. England.
I can do an accent if it makes...
Let's hear it.
Do you work for the FBI, T? That was a grill.
I'm just trying to get all the information out of her. That's more Australian, isn't it?
I don't know what that was.
That's definitely
I went
Australian.
off the rails.
I'm thinking I'm in a Mary Poppins. Okay, that was a good start.
But in any event, we're here. We've got guests.
Thank God I can edit this out.
You know, fix this in post.
I'm just going to hear bleep when you talk.
So most people hear anyways. All right, we are back. We're talking with Amana, and we're talking about generally, since you know both sides of it, you know what it's like to be a small business owner, you know what it's like to develop and sell product, and you know this whole background of looking at it from the lens of psychology. Mm-hmm. Your master's dissertation, is it on, hit me with what it's about, because it's about social media.
You really prepped for this, didn't you?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, you're really good.
I know her.
Oh, that's good. Good start.
So,
it's the impact of social media on self-esteem, and we're looking at gender differences and then the different platforms, because each platform does different things, right? So it's seeing if there's particular types of platforms that are more maybe damaging or beneficial to self-esteem and mental health in general.
Interesting. And we're just having a discussion about how social media is like a
what
necessary
age
evil.
are you looking at?
18 plus.
Oh, you're looking at adults. You're not looking
yeah.
at preteens or any of that?
No. I mean, I think adolescence would be a great thing to look at, but when you're a student, you can't look at anything below 18 because of them minors. Right. And so you'd have to, you can't do that in a educational setting. Okay. But a lot of the research has been done on, teenagers and stuff, which I think is a risky age.
Yeah.
So if I was to do it outside of a educational setting, I'd definitely look at that age group.
Has anyone done research as to whether social media is like a net good or a net bad in like a societal outcome? Do you know?
Lots.
Yeah. And what's the verdict?
I think there's so many different things that play a part in terms of like individual differences and stuff. So as a society, it's kind of hard to say whether it's beneficial or not, because people get different things from it and use it for different reasons. That's one of the things we're looking at, use, the motivation of use, and why people are on it in the first place.
Interesting.
So I don't think it's that clear cut that you can say whether it's.
Yeah, but I'm simple-minded.
But I think it's pretty clear that we don't teach our children how to use it properly. Like adults don't use it properly.
No.
Well,
but I think it's a technology that has, like anything, right? It has great potential positive, but people they don't know how to differentiate the reality from the virtual fakeness that permeates social media.
Yeah. And it's still very new. I mean, it's very new that everyone's kind of trying to navigate through. And it's opened up the whole world, hasn't it? I mean, it's a global thing. It connects everyone around the world that we didn't used to have. So yeah, I don't think anyone really knows how to use it, and it can become an issue there's...
Yeah, and like, I don't even know if my parents had tried to. So I remember when I went to college, 2006, I'm not going to say it, Bob. When I went to an unnamed school, 2006, you had to have a .edu email to sign up for Facebook. And I remember, so it was the first few years it was out. And I remember the first time we were in college, must have been like junior year maybe or something, maybe senior year. And one of our friends' parents had just gotten on. They opened it up to everybody. And we were like, that's the end of that. Like that, everything that it was before then. Because people would post pictures of them at parties and like doing, that was your sometimes too unfiltered life on there. Mm-hmm. And like as soon as people's parents were on it, we were like, that's the end of that. And it's funny.
Should have bought stock then.
I
just
know.
saying.
Well, you know what's funny?
You missed the boom.
This is a complete side note, but the guy who was the 8th employee at Facebook went to the school I went to, and so he came back and talked to us, and he gave just a talk to a small handful of people that went and saw it. And someone asked him the question, "Will Facebook ever be a publicly traded company?" And he said, "Absolutely not." He said, "Our number one concern is the privacy of your information. And we would never sell your information. And we know that the greatest value we bring is your information. And therefore, once we're publicly traded, we're beholden to do the thing that brings the greatest value. And we will never do that." And
that worked out well.
Yeah. And I also don't know if he still works there. But in any event.
Probably doesn't have to.
No, I don't think he does if he was the 8th employee. But that was a complete side note.
Well, we usually edit that out anyway. T's rant for the day, we just edit out. So it's all good.
But it is, the point I was trying to make is that like your generation
which built all of it, by the way.
Right, but didn't have it at the age we were at.
No.
So like even if my parents had tried to advise me on how to safely and healthily use social media, I mean, I think they just would have been out of their depth.
Well, I don't care what your age is. Most people don't use it properly. What I worry about, which I would love to hear from you, is, and I say this all the time, I've said it in speeches and in the press, social media has given a platform to idiots that sound like geniuses until you meet them and they can't string 2 sentences together. And we meet a lot of them. Mm-hmm. They are held up to a spotlight as a genius in business or whatever you want to talk about. And then you meet them, you're like, you literally can't tell me 2 things you actually do. And you fall apart. And that drives me crazy about social media. And I'm not a big social media fan. It's a phenomenal tool to stay in touch. I love the fact that I can talk to anybody around the world, right? But you also have to know your lane. Mm-hmm. And it drives me insane, the negative side of it. And I don't know, we don't want to focus on that too much, but that's what drives us crazy. And that's why we have such a high touch organization, because you can be really smart on social media and never get anything accomplished in business. And I think that's hurt most people that we're trying to help here. So
I agree with you. No. I agree with you. I mean, I think I think that especially since we're similarly aged and active on Instagram more so than anything else, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak for you, but it is, the way I feel about it is that it's a necessary evil. If I had my druthers, I would have my personal one where I would just follow friends and stuff that they're doing and stuff like that. And then that would be it.
And your OnlyFans page.
Well, obviously. Tease toes. That's not bad. Lock that in, Robert. Hit that. Tease toes. Lock that down for me.
Can you just help us with some therapy now?
But going back to, I think it does give everyone a platform. It wouldn't have been people that wouldn't have had that before. They can get out in front of a lot of people and talk, try and sell things, get on OnlyFans, whatever. They now have that ability to have a platform, which in some cases is wonderful if you have got a message to get across or you have invented something amazing that's going to help people. But at the same time, you do also have then idiots that do have that platform as well. And you see that all the time, which is what we were talking about earlier as well. These people that I don't know whether they do make a lot of money or not, but they are able to just sell. Sometimes it's...
Yeah, like perpetuate it.
Did any of your research, so I'll just give you, so well, we've traveled all over the world, started companies everywhere, right? And you always find your tribe. You always find entrepreneurs. I don't care if you don't speak the same language, you kind of have the same lifestyle and you kind of feel a kindred spirit. And when social media hit, I was like, this is the way to get on a soapbox about world peace, because we get to touch everybody and people can truly see. But what it's happened is we've actually gone more clannish or more tribal.
Yeah.
Was that part of the research? Because that's fascinating to me, that we've become less tolerant when we can see almost everybody.
I think history has kind of shown us that that's how humans behave anyway. You know, people like to, I want to say stick to their own, but it is that kind of...
We are tribal people.
Yeah.
Like it's, and I don't think it's just people, it's, you know, other animals as well, but it's...
But I know what you're saying.
Slaw.
It is a shame because it does open things up to be able to just connect with all and not become, you know...
Well, I mean, you can just look at like the comments you get. With the number of comments, at least that I see, that are knee-jerk negative are higher than positive. Yeah, not only on small scale, but even like big creators and stuff like that. Sometimes I'll go to something and I'll watch it and I'll be like, that was rough. And instead of moving on, I'll go like, gotta look at the comments. And it's just brutal. Like it's just, and so like it's, I don't think it is a net positive place. Like I think it's...
Well, people do it to feel better about themselves. I mean, one of the things that we all do, human behavior, is comparison, social comparison. And the internet is terrible for that. And it's there constantly. And it can be a positive thing. You know, you can take inspiration from people and, you know, you have upward comparisons and downward comparisons. And someone that you think has something that you want, it might be inspiring. You might then look at how you can emulate that and get to whatever we're talking about, get to that level. But more often than not, it becomes a negative, and people hit out and people are behind their keyboards and are able to
And
to
they're
write
frustrated.
those. Yeah,
Well, they're also
exactly,
emboldened to do things they would never do in person.
Exactly, because there's no
100%.
kickback.
Yeah.
There, you know, you're hidden. You don't have that same, you know, if we were sat here and I said something, then you could tell me what you thought. But if I write it and you don't know who I am.
Right. There's a certain veil of anonymity.
And you wouldn't see him crying.
Well, I mean, it honestly, it has had, you know, negative impacts on me before you realize like, oh, this is a nobody. Not that this is a nobody, but like this person, there's nothing real about it. Like I remember one of the first times we got into posting reels of the bicycles, like it would be like positive comment, and then one person would say something out of left field that had nothing to do with anything. And that's what I would think about that comment. Even like I posted something last year when I was going away on vacation, and I just made like a kitschy video that I thought would be like, this is a fun way to say I'm shutting the shop down for a week. And it showed me like closing all the breakers for the shop, which is something I do when I go away for a while. That wasn't, but like I still turn the lights off first. I still shut everything down first. And so the comments that rolled in that were like, how many times do I have to tell people a breaker is not a switch? There's just, what is the point of that comment? Like I made a 6-second thing.
They're worried about your safety.
Yeah, I didn't go through and actually this is how I shut my shop down. First I shut the machine off, then I shut the computer down, then I cut it's
I won't give
6
my
seconds.
advice to you anymore. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you, Bob, I didn't appreciate your comment. But like, it's just, it is. And that thing gets in your head and then you're like, oh, this isn't real. Like this doesn't matter, but it feels like it matters in the moment, which can be positive or negative.
Yeah, it's hard to not care. And,
Yeah.
you're putting yourself out there. So you get comments and things. It is hard to, we meet different people at a time. So, that's tenfold on the internet. You have people that just want to say things for the point of saying things. But it is hard not to take it to heart.
Yeah.
Like, we're always trying to find the best practices, what people who are considering being an inventor and entrepreneur to consider. And social media is already there. And listen, we can type in entrepreneur and 1 million people will come up that have never started a company, but they're entrepreneurial experts.
Yep.
And that's always my thing. If you haven't taken any risk, and this is my bias, right? I always know my bias. If you haven't put any money on the line, you are not an entrepreneur. If you have an idea that you've talked about for 30 years and never launched, you're not an entrepreneur. From your research and from where you sit, because you sit on both sides of that equation, what's your perspective on how they should be dealing with social media? What are the ramifications? Like, giving people a different perspective is why we're here. The reason we get along is we don't agree on anything.
I think it's a tricky one with social media. I think it is a necessity. We've spoken about that in terms of being an entrepreneur or being a small business. I think it's great in terms of the people you can meet, and it gives you access to other people that are in the same field that you are. I think in terms of from a psychology point of view, it's avoiding the pitfalls of social media, but I think that goes across the board in terms of everything.
Well, I think too, like, not to jump in because you're the researcher and I'm just a welder, but to go to your point about, like, you have instant information at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You have to still have the expertise to be able to filter through that. And this is something I see a lot in the fabrication world and product design world is I'll literally get in arguments with customers about, they'll bring me something, we'll have a design, and then we'll argue over the way to make it because they watched a YouTube video. And I have to explain to them that YouTube video doesn't apply to this situation for this number of reasons, because they don't have the lens to look through it and actually have the expert. If you have the base knowledge to filter through what's in front of you, I think it is a wildly useful tool. You can connect with new people, you can get new information, it can open doors to what you can learn.
But I think that is the issue with social media in terms of information gathering and things. You don't know, and there are so many people that take words as gospel, and they don't know if that person that's spouting all that stuff actually knows what they're talking about.
And that's what.
And she just looked at me.
Well, and that's what. Because that's what you were saying. You were like, there's all these people and we've ranted about it to each other before about how people say, I'm an entrepreneurial expert in this, that, and that, but you've always worked for a company where you get a paycheck every 2 weeks, no matter what happens. So your opinion is discounted to me. You want to tell me what I should do to make my product better, but you've never had to make a product without a $4 million budget. Your opinion is not valid to me.
Yeah.
So filtering through that, and especially with, you were talking about parents and parents' role and all this kind of stuff. It's part of that. It's just like, I'm a gun owner. I enjoy it. I enjoy shooting. I enjoy all this stuff. That doesn't mean I'm going to leave my loaded 45 on the table and then let my one-day kids run around. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to safely own and use things. Motorcycles, cars, my 10,000-pound truck. There's ways to use these things. And I think social media is just another tool.
It is. And I think from a psychology point of view, I think what's great, and I think it probably, I haven't been doing it long enough to know whether there was help and advice on mental health and well-being within business startups and stuff. I don't really know how new that is, but there is a lot of that on social media. So from that side, I think it's excellent. I think the world is kind of opening up to the fact that we all struggle. We're all kind of muddling through and we all need help. And I think having that access to that on social media is really good for small business owners, entrepreneurs, and and all of that kind of thing.
I do agree. And that's a lot of what you do with your presence
my page,
with Elysian.
Yeah, in terms of mindset and self-belief and all of those things, and how, you know, you can work through issues or certain behaviors and, you know, create coping tools and strategies to kind of help yourself as well.
So from a psychological point of view, are there a few coping mechanisms you think would help anybody in entrepreneurship, inventor, any of that space where you're trying to go against the grain, right? Because you trying something new is usually frowned upon.
Yeah, and I think whenever you try something new, whenever you're going through a period of change, of growth, you know, when you're evolving, it's really, really uncomfortable. And I think having coping strategies in set ready for those times is really important.
Just one other thing I wanted to hit on too is like, this applies to personal social media too. Like if you're happy when you post and sad if you don't get enough likes, and then happy when you get enough likes, and then sad when you're not posting, stop posting.
It shouldn't be about validation.
Yeah, go figure some shit out, and then just post because you know, for businesses it's different. We are unfortunately, as we were talking about being a slave to the algorithm, required to post a certain number of times if you want to at all be present. But like, I think it applies personally as well. But the one other thing I wanted to hit on, which I think applies to entrepreneurs and startups and stuff like that, with filtering through social media, is one of the things that is problematic to me is when you talk about market validation, and you say, I made this thing, I put it out there, I put it on social media, it didn't get any traction. Well, once again, unless you are ranking in the algorithm, you're not even getting exposure. And on top of that, are you hitting the qualified market that you need to be in front of? Or are you just getting likes because it's pretty, but none of those people are going to buy? And so I think it adds this whole extra wrinkle of market validation, product market fit, all the things that we talk about here and work on in the incubator and all that kind of stuff is complicated by social media. And you then have to drill down all those layers to find out, I think. Tell me if I'm wrong, if you disagree.
You're not wrong. It's just, I think it's a gloss for most people that they get a certain number of vanity metrics and they think that's their target, right? It's the same thing about selling to everybody. There's no company that's ever started that sold to everybody. No one can sell to everybody, but they think they can because they just want to reach the biggest audience. And we talked about that with your algorithm. I disagree with trying to follow an algorithm. If you know who buys from you, chase them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's it. And they probably don't exist when the algorithm tells you. I hate when they give you those trend analysis and they said, you should always post at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I know nobody that's buying from my companies is paying attention at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday. But the macro, I get you. Yeah. We got to wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll wrap it up.
Very
We'll pick it
much.
up another time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Try and do this more often. I think this is step one to learning how to serve.